What if we open up the board? What if we look at the entire Southeastern Conference for the weekend? Now, maybe you do want to dance with an Alabama Austin P, or maybe you want to talk about Auburn or Western Kentucky. Tom, what is your best bet in the SEC this weekend?
I'm going to go to the other team that's already wrapped up its division in the SEC. I'm looking at that LSU UAB game, and I'm trying to sit here and figure out what does LSU really have to play for in this one. They've already wrapped up the West. They picked up a win against Alabama, and they've got a rivalry game against Texas A&M looming next week. Here comes UAB to town, a team that we probably should smother and we should probably beat. It won't be all that difficult. UAB's got a lot to play for itself. It is still in the running for the Conference USA title. It is trying to get a spot in the conference championship game. And it's a pretty good football team. They've been playing very well all season long. So when I look at this spread, UAB, the Blazers getting 15 points. Circle the Dragons. Give me UAB. Give me the 15 points. They're going to cover. And you know what, Chip, as you would so often say, wouldn't it be hilarious if they pulled off the upset?
Yes.
That would definitely be hilarious, Tom. I'm going to go to the Ole Miss Rebels, a little deflated after what happened last weekend against Alabama, but they're going to Arkansas. And Arkansas's defense has been an abject disaster, specifically through the air. And I think what Ole Miss needs to do in this game, they want to get back to their identity. They want to ground and pound and then hit them over the top with guys like Malik Heath and Jonathan Mingo. I think Ole Miss last week, when Alabama started to stop them on the ground, it was almost like they didn't know how to adjust. So in this game, they're not going to be stopped on the ground. So their game plan, there is not going to be disrupted. I think there's still plenty to play for Lane Kiffin's group. They want to make a New Year's Six bowl. The 2.5 points seems absolutely absurd against this Arkansas defense. So if you're telling me I can cash a ticket with Ole Miss in a field goal game, I'll take it, because I think this is going to be a double-digit game.
Ooh, it's a double hangover game, too. Both teams, emotional, close losses. Who can reload the musket? No real confidence for me in that one. I love Circle the Dragons, but my best bet is a game that we discussed earlier. I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs. This is a group that has no bigger fish to fry in the regular season, with Georgia Tech on deck next. Much respect to clean old-fashioned hate. I think that this is a quality opponent in a tough environment where Kirby Smart's going to really want to work out the kinks, get this team ready for the SEC championship and the college football playoff. No mercy from the Bulldogs. I think Georgia wins this one by 4 touchdowns. Well, that was the SEC. What about the rest of the conferences? We will go conference by conference with our very best bet in college football for this weekend. Next. Back here on the Cover 3 Takeover here on CBS Sports HQ. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Barrett Salee. I'm Chip Patterson. Well, we got the SEC in the books with our very best bet. So these other conferences want some love, and we are here to give it to them. So we are going to go conference by conference with our very best bets, and we begin in the Big Ten. Tom Fornelli, you've got Ohio State and Michigan looking ahead. Well, not looking ahead, but at least their next game is the biggest game. Ohio State's against Maryland, Michigan's against Illinois. Is there something there, or is there another game that stands out to you for your very best bet in the conference this weekend?
I like both Ohio State and Michigan in the first half of both of those games before they kind of pack things in ahead of the game. But my favorite bet in the Big Ten this week involves a team that is an underdog that should not be the underdog in this matchup. The Big Ten West race has been turned on its head in recent weeks. Iowa is suddenly playing better than anybody else in the division, yet it finds itself as an underdog on the road against a Minnesota team that has not yet beaten a team with a winning record all season long. And I don't know why anybody expects that will start this week against the Hawkeyes. They're getting points. I don't want them. Give me Iowa on the money line to win straight up. It's going to happen. They're going to win the division, folks, and we're going to have to deal with that in Indianapolis.
That's a very sad pick, Tom, and I'm going to go with an even sadder pick. I'm going to go Purdue Northwestern, the under. It's going to be an awful game. The weather's going to be cold. No one's going to want to play. No one's going to want to hit each other. It's just going to be an old school slop fest. I would not like Northwestern and over in any game that Northwestern plays, but I especially don't want Northwestern against Purdue because I don't think Purdue's going to be able to throw it around like they want to. So I'm thinking something like a 10-3, 17-10 style game. Just an ugly, just ridiculously bad, traditional Big Ten game.
So I think that we will see some points in Michigan State and Indiana, and I think they will come from the Spartans. I think they will come from a Michigan State team that has been getting a little bit healthier in the back half of the season. But most importantly, and this is one of my favorite angles to play here late in the season, this is a gotta-have-it game for Mel Tucker. He got all those millions of dollars for the success that they had last season, and yet he's going to come in the follow-up and take this Michigan State team from being ranked in the top 20 in the preseason poll to being on their couch for the holidays. That's right, Michigan State has 5 wins. They need 1, and the next game after Indiana is against Penn State. So this coaching staff, this team, anybody who has been a part of this better play at the end of the season, you got to have it. So I think that they leave no doubt and they get it done against Indiana. They cover the 10. Barrett, what about in the Big 12? We've got TCU on the road against Baylor. We've got the weird bedlam that isn't between either ranked teams, but it is the debut for Brent Venables. Is there something there, or is there something elsewhere around the Big 12 that has your attention for your very best bet?
Hypnotoads. I'm going with TCU -2.5 against Baylor. I think there's this sort of leftover idea that Baylor is the team that we all thought was going to win the Big 12. It's not. I mean, they just got blown out by Kansas State. Offensively, they're a mess. Defense, which is supposed to be their calling card, has not been good at all. And what do we know about TCU? They cover the spread. The trend is your friend. 7-1-1 against the spread are the Horned Frogs, and they've done it in a variety of different ways. They can win through the air. They can win old school on the ground. They're a versatile team that I don't care what Baylor throws at it, they have an answer. No matter what happens, they have a puncher's chance. So I think right now they're going to throw a knockout blow to the Baylor Bears and continue on this undefeated season, this magical run that not only sees them as a national championship contender, but also a team that covers the spread almost as well as anybody in the country.
All hail Hypnotoad. I'm going to go to Bedlam. I'm going to take Oklahoma State catching 7.5 points against Oklahoma because I have no earthly idea why Oklahoma State is the underdog in this game, let alone why it is such a big underdog. I know that Spencer Sanders did not start last week's game against Iowa State, but when they needed somebody to come in and lead them on a touchdown drive, guess who magically appeared in the game and did so? It was Spencer Sanders. My theory is that with Oklahoma State out of the running for the Big 12 championship and Sanders banged up the last few weeks, Mike Gundy kept his quarterback out of the game with his eye on Bedlam against Oklahoma, the bigger game for the Cowboys, one that Mike Gundy really wants to get a win in any season, and especially this year with Oklahoma on the precipice of leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, putting the future of this series in doubt. I think the Cowboys are the better team in this matchup. I think they're going to win. But the better bet is to take the 7.5 points because it's Bedlam. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be close. So I'm getting a touchdown and a hook, and I am not passing it up.
Yeah, a touchdown and a hook, and this is a coaching mismatch. I mean, much love to Brent Venables, the vision for the program, but you're not going to tell me that Brent Venables in year 1 is a coaching advantage over Mike Gundy, who I believe and our CBS Sports coach rankings have suggested is one of the 10 to 15 best coaches in the entire country. So I think 7 and a hook with Mike Gundy is very important. I think Spencer Sanders will go out there and will give it a go in this game. And while that Oklahoma State defense has been falling apart and health-wise they are kind of held together by duct tape, I think that this rivalry game will bring out the best. Mike Gundy has not beaten Oklahoma a lot, but even in the losses, the games are always close. Don't give Mike Gundy a touchdown and a hook. We'll take all those points. All right, what about in the ACC? So we've got Miami going to play Clemson. Avert your eyes. You've got Florida State hosting Louisiana. North Carolina is playing Georgia Tech. What stands out this week in the ACC to you, Tom?
I'm going to go with the true ACC champion. I'm going to take Notre Dame minus 21 against Boston College. We have seen the ACC's best teams all season long go up against Notre Dame and get it handed to them by Notre Dame. And now the Irish get to play one of the conference's worst teams in Boston College, a team that pulled off a very surprising upset last week against NC State, but is still a team that has been beaten up and has been dealing with injuries all season long. Meanwhile, this is an Irish team that started the season slowly. It has really kind of started to find itself under Marcus Freeman, especially on the offensive side, where they've just started grounding and pounding teams down. And I think against a BC team that is already grounded into dust for the most part, they're just going to coast. I think we're going to see the Irish put up a lot of points. It's going to be their most impressive offensive performance of the season, and they are going to coast to an easy cover. I think they're going to win by 4 to 5 touchdowns.
I'm going to go with Georgia Tech and North Carolina. Look, Georgia Tech isn't terrible offensively, which means against North Carolina, they're going to look like world beaters. But Drake May is the real world beater. You're going to look at a guy in Drake May who they want to make a Heisman stater. I don't know if you guys have seen all week long. North Carolina is pumping out content for Drake May's Heisman Trophy run. That means there's going to be style points. You know Phil Longo is a good offensive coordinator anyway. So I think you see Drake May put his foot on the gas, and he doesn't let up until there are zeros on the clock in the fourth quarter. And you know their defense is terrible, so Georgia Tech's probably going to get to 14, 21, 24 points. Oh. I think 5 for Drake May late in the season to people who have not paid attention to a guy who should, not saying you will, but should be in New York as a Heisman Trophy finalist.
Back to Tom's point about Notre Dame, 27 regular season wins in games against ACC opponents in a row. It's ridiculous. The Fighting Irish just mop the floor with the ACC since entering into that scheduling agreement back in 2014 to be a partial member, half in, half out. 39-7 in regular season games against the ACC. Gracious and incredible. But that's not where my best bet is. No, I'm going to take you to what's going to be a little bit of a chilly scene at Cardinal Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky, but it will be a memorable scene because this is senior day for redshirt senior Malik Cunningham, someone who has been such a huge part of the Louisville offense and of these last 4 or 5 years. He comes in as a change of pace kind of quarterback. He eventually wins the starting job outright, and he has been putting his name up there close to Heisman Trophy winner Lamar Jackson in terms of the Louisville school records for rushing touchdowns, rushing by a quarterback. I think that the Cards are going to pull it all out, and NC State enters this game with a lot of injury questions, especially on the offensive side of the football. NC State already was a little bit limited offensively, just sort of in the way they've handled their business so far this year. I think that NC State's defense will be able to keep Louisville contained eventually, but the Cards can hit those splash plays, and I think they'll hit it enough to be able to cover this short number and win by a touchdown. So I will take Louisville, and I will lay the 4. Well, at the top of the hour, we were joined by Josh Pate from the greater Los Angeles area to break down USC and UCLA. So I ask you, Barrett, is USC, UCLA where your best bet in the Pac-12 is this weekend, or might you look at an Oregon, Utah, or something else from the board?
Yeah, I'm going to go with USC over UC. I'm surprised it's only a 2.5-point spread. I think part of that might be Travis Dye's injury. I don't necessarily think that's going to play a big role in this. I think it's going to be more about opportunistic moments defensively. We know USC has got those turnovers all year long, and in conference games, UCLA just sort of average in terms of takeaways. Now, I know there's turnover luck involved, and I get that, but USC's identity has been forcing those turnovers. And on top of that, huge stage for Lincoln Riley, huge stage for Caleb Williams. Heisman matters, and marketing matters for Lincoln Riley. So if he can take an opportunity like this on a big stage, a national stage, perhaps his last big stage before Pac-12 championship game, he's going to do it. So I think USC jumps out to a big lead. I actually think they're going to win the battle in the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They have been getting better in that department, and you're going to see USC win this game by double digits. But again, if it's only 2.5 points and a 3-point game, a field goal game cashes, I 100% will go with the Trojans.
Barrett, it's been too long since you picked up a physics book, because if you'd read one recently, you would know that Bill Walton's laws of Pac-12 physics dictate that any Pac-12 object in motion must and will do as much damage as possible to the Pac-12. And USC is the only college football playoff team remaining with a chance for the college football playoff, which means UCLA is bound by the laws of physics to beat USC and ruin the Pac-12's playoff hopes this weekend. Give me UCLA and the points. As I said earlier in the show, the points are the better bet, but I really do think that UCLA is going to pull off the upset and destroy the Pac-12's playoff hopes, but I don't care because it has still been one of the most entertaining conferences in the country to watch all season long.
The best one-win team in America from 2021 has a chance to win its fifth game and remain in the running to make it to a bowl game. Tom and I know, have watched Jed Fish and this Arizona Wildcats team play really hard. Over the course of last season, they were better by the end of the season than they were at the beginning. And this season, they have had a couple of duds, but they have continued to play hard. And Jane DeLaura's performance in the upset win of UCLA, I think, was a huge moment for the Wildcats. They were able to not only stay alive, avoid catching that seventh loss, but really build some confidence. And now Arizona plays at home against a Washington State team that just got its gotta have it win by getting its sixth win of the season. So we've got an Arizona team that's riding high. We've got the motivational angle that you win this game and you win against Arizona State. You're in a bowl game under Jed Fish year 2. Give me Arizona minus the short number. Well, every single week we deliver because the people clamor for it. We give you a player to watch, a matchup to watch, and our very best bet from the entire country for the weekend ahead. It is our Cover 3 play, and we will give it to you next.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.